This is like legit how I used to dress in the 8th grade, and that is really funny to me. Like, look at me, going back to middle school. Yay! Hey guys, it's me, Ree, and today we're going to be doing a book talk on The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. This is the prequel to the Hunger Games series. It just came out a couple weeks ago, and I was super excited for it. I'm a huge Hunger Games fan. I mean, obviously, this is literally how I dressed in the 8th grade. My dog's opening my bathroom door. So I dressed in the 8th grade, and yeah, I'm just a huge fan. My grandparents and I used to go see the movies together. She's read the books, my grandmother's read the books, and for Christmas one year she got old bread bags that her mother used and put my gifts in there and put a note that said, "A gift from District 12, so my Christmas gift came from PETA, I guess. It was cute. But anyways, getting back on topic, this is the prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy that follows Katniss Everdeen. This one, however, does not follow Katniss. It follows Coriolanus Snow, and if you've read the books or watched the movies, you probably recognize that name. It is the antagonist, President Snow. If you've watched the movies, it's Donald Sutherland. So when this was announced and people figured out that it was following Snow, a lot of them were like, why President Snow? He's the antagonist. He's not meant to be sympathetic. He represents everything corrupt in a government setting. He is a complete tyrant. He kills children with like no reaction. He's fine with everything. He sends Finnick to prostitution. He's not a great guy, and he's very corrupt, and we all hate him. And a lot of people were scared that this book would try to make him sympathetic, and they were kind of against reading it for a while because, you know, like if you make him sympathetic, you kind of erase what the Hunger Games is about in the first place, which is taking down the corrupt government. And so I went in a little bit like wary too, because I didn't want Collins to try to make Snow the sympathetic person, and I had doubts that she was going to do that because she did such a great job in the Hunger Games with showing right from wrong. And yeah, so I'm gonna get into that. This is gonna be a no spoiler book talk because I want people who are kind of on the edge about reading this to be able to make their decision, and I won't give a number. I'm sorry about the dogs. They're very hyper today. I won't give a number when I give my grade on this because I don't like doing book reviews with a grade or a number because I'm very indecisive. So yeah, let's just get into this. This is obviously the prequel to the Hunger Games. It is not told in first person like Katniss' story is. It is the third person limited, so we get only the opinions of Snow, but we are not inside his brain per se. He is not the narrator. It's just a third person narration. So I thought that kind of helped with not being too sympathetic for Snow. But the story follows President Snow when he is an 18-year-old at an academy in Panem, in the capital, and he's going to be a mentor in the Hunger Games because at this point the capital wants students to be the mentors because obviously there aren't enough victors because it's only the 10th Hunger Games, and at this point the Hunger Games are not watched all around in the districts. A lot of people avoid them because at this point it's only the 10th Hunger Games and it's still early on, and they don't have all like the fancy details that we see in when Katniss and PETA go into the arena. So they're kind of trying to figure out ways to make the games more engaging to people, and Snow really wants to be a mentor because he wants to kind of rise up in the world, and he's hiding a big secret in which we figure out that his family is not as rich as he likes to portray them as. He's in fact hiding the fact that they're very poor and they're struggling to meet ends. So he kind of wants to rise to the top and be able to support his family, and he wants to one day be president. So yeah, that's pretty much the non-spoiler review, the non-spoiler plot. He does get a tribute. He is the mentor to the District 12 girl, ironically. And at first he's kind of like, District 12, really? You couldn't have given me a better district? So if you read that, you'll figure out what happens there as he tries to mentor this District 12 girl and help her make it through the games. So to tackle that problem of President Snow being sympathetic to readers, I found that he isn't. There are points where, like I've said before, you feel bad for him because obviously his family is not in the best financial situation, and like you kind of feel like, oh yeah, I get that, like you want to get a good job, rise up in the ranks so that you can support your family, and his family is lovely. He has a cousin named Tigress and a grandmother named Grandmam, and they're lovable. Grandmam is a little but Tigress is very lovable, and you kind of feel for them. But I think Suzanne Collins kind of puts little details in that make you kind of go, because he's very much so slimy in a way. Like he kind of reminds you of that classmate you had that's always trying to kiss ass and is always kind of manipulating teachers into thinking he's the best. And there were always kind of little hints that shows that he's not a sympathetic person, or his morals are skewed. So like I don't think that's a problem, and like for me to dwell on that a little bit more would spoil certain things, but like I was constantly reminded even in the beginning that like this man is gonna go too far one day and he's not going to be as kind of morally correct as he is right now. Like there's always like something's gonna push him over the edge. Like he's always like, his thoughts are kind of always like, how can I take advantage of this person? How can I play this in my direction? And yeah, so that's definitely a big part of it. Other than that, I think this book was really engaging. You kind of fall in love with all the characters. There's a wide variety of like wacky characters that are Coriolanus's classmates. You get to meet people in the districts when the tributes come in. You get to learn about their backgrounds a little bit, and I think it's really interesting how we learn how the Hunger Games were created, kind of like how it led to it becoming this big sensational event that we see in the trilogy. And I would highly recommend this as a book for you to read if you've read the trilogy. It doesn't ruin everything, doesn't ruin anything. To me it didn't. There are cute little, like, I guess we call them Easter eggs when we play video games, but like that's the only thing that I can think of. Cute little references if you've read this series. I would highly recommend reading the series before you read this. It is quite thick. It is 517 pages, I believe. Let me see. 517 pages, so it's a little bit longer than the trilogy was, like each book in the trilogy was. But yeah, I would highly recommend reading this. There are references to the trilogy. There like last names pop up that you may recognize. I see a few people talking about it on Tumblr where they say like this read like a fan fiction, and I think at this point, with all the media coverage the Hunger Games has gotten, any addition to that series would read like a fan fiction, especially if we're talking about President Snow. But I think this book is definitely something that needed to be written by Collins. She brings up a lot of really great points in this, like the philosophy of like, how far will you go? How far will you go to maintain your identity? How far will you go for your friends, for your own sake? And there's a lot of great philosophical things in there, and she does put her own voice in there as a kind of leverage to kind of divvy out like, where does Snow end and where do her own thoughts begin? And I think that's important because a lot of people were saying like, don't make Snow sympathetic, and she does have a kind of a way of saying like, this is the right way. Like the views of the districts are in there still, even though we are mostly in the capital. So if you were worried about that, please don't be. Please read this book. It was amazing. It's very engaging. It took me a few days to read it. You will love the characters that are new. You will become attached to them. I will say the District 12 girl that he's mentoring, she's a character. You will love her. So please read this and tell me if you enjoy it. If you have read it, feel free to DM me on Instagram or Twitter. Let's talk about it. Like, I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that this has convinced you to read it. This is my first book review, so please don't be too harsh on me. I'm gonna try to do more and hopefully get better. But as for my grading, I would say I feel pretty positive about this, and I hope you feel as positive as I do when you're done with it. And until next time, may the odds be ever in your favor. See ya!